relationship is to loneliness. And he said, and it's been my experience, and I don't know about all of you, but that you get into relationship with those who remind you most of your loneliness, or who generate in you the most loneliness, or however you want to put it, help you to access your loneliness the most. And those are the sticky relationships that seem to cause chaos. You fall in love, you have the whole physical experience of it, you get, or, it doesn't have to be a sexual experience either. You can meet a friend or an enemy and have basically the same relationship with them. Like, this person reminds me of my loneliness, and it's kind of the same thing. But those are the ones, for whatever, and it would, in the Buddhist tradition, it would be about karma, like what the causes and conditions are of the two people meeting each other and sort of generating relationship. And out of the relationship or the meeting in the little society, if loneliness arises, and if it arises in both, then you've got something. Then you've got a relationship. And that person becomes your ultimate teacher. And we don't relate to them that way. We actually begin to hate them and get frustrated with them and think they're assholes and imperfect and they're not fulfilling our needs and they're not doing what I want or what I told them to do. And so we don't relate to them as though they're helping us to come to be warriors. But that's what they're doing. That's absolutely fundamentally what they're helping us to do, is to become acquainted with our loneliness. So a budding warrior is smart enough to go, wait a second, I think I'll pay attention to this. I think I'll start to and it might not be the right relationship. I'm not saying you have to stick with some terrible relationship with a lover or a parent or a rabid dog. You don't have to stay in relationships that don't work. But you do want to become curious about what is actually being elicited in you. And is it underneath it all, this sense of loneliness? Because in reality, when we reach out to each other, there's no there. No one else can fulfill what we need or want. The only person who can do that is you, thereby reinforcing the sense of loneliness. So what's your choice? If you have any resources at all in yourself, to relax into it and become more acquainted with the genuine ourselves, instead of arguing with this reality, looking forward to it, looking forward to the next opportunity to feel lonely.
I'm just thinking about the different, maybe they're different words, but different kinds of loneliness that I've felt.
Yeah, I have a list, but I didn't go through it.
Well, the difference between, maybe, I don't know which word, but there's loneliness that's sort of chosen, aloneness.
Yes.
It feels very good and open. Good in that it feels open and quiet and sort of calm. And then there's loneliness that's sort of desperate and like something is missing, or you're put in a position, or you feel put in a position of loneliness, of it's not chosen. It's, and that's like grasping, like desperate, like
Right. Unenlightened.
And I don't know if those are different, if the word, his description of loneliness is different, you know.
Well, he means both at different times.
Mhm.
He means the kind of, you're talking about cultural loneliness when you say the sort of desperate, we want to be in relationship to other people in a certain way and it's not working out and we feel lonely because of it, or we feel the kind of isolation or depression and sadness around not being able to connect, versus, and that's a kind of loneliness, and then there's also a deeper loneliness, a more fundamental experience of being human that leads to openness. That becoming curious about that loneliness leads to openness. And a few, I don't know when this was, like maybe 6 or 7 years ago or something, there seemed to be in the Shabbat community a number of people who really wanted to make it clear that there was a big difference between being alone and being lonely. And I always felt that was just an argument of semantics in which they were basically trying to make themselves feel better. Because it was like, okay, yes, there is a difference, but that doesn't mean that loneliness isn't a basic experience that people have. And you're trying to argue that, like, well, if I choose to be alone, then, then it's all within my control. When Tom Grimshaw was talking about something much messier than that we're not in control of. But there is, yes, also this sense of like aloneness, that it also has its own containment. And it can be by choice. For example, you're an artist and you mostly work alone. And that's when the good work happens. And that can feel great, or it can feel lonely. So you can feel not lonely alone, you can feel lonely alone. You can feel alone and lonely, you can feel with other people and lonely. I mean, there's so many different iterations of it. But the fundamental, like getting under the lonely, whether you're alone or with others, getting under the lonely to the lonely that has resonance and meaning and beauty and love in it, then you're in the realm of the warrior.
And that's why I think you don't need, the difference of the loneliness is one, you don't need the radio, you don't need to fill it up with like another cup of tea or another something. Yeah. And then the other one is like constantly like, you need something, there's something, I don't have what I need.
Right, I don't have what I need. Yeah, that's how we deal with the lonely. And then we blame those we live with, or are with. Because we don't have what we need, but we do. Only we do.
So you're saying if you examine that sort of grasping loneliness and go down deeper and deeper, you'll find the love and the openness?
Yeah. I mean, in a funny way, if you were like able to be this conscious, which I'm not, but you could take it as a cue. Like, oh, I want chocolate, I want to turn on the radio, I'm feeling lonely. You could, if you were super conscious, go, what's going on here? And you could become more curious, and it really could be an opportunity to learn something very profound, not just about you, but about the state of being human. Because ultimately, that's what really matters, is how the you is fundamentally human. Yeah.
I think so. Some of it might be when we want to have the chocolate or the cup of tea or something because we're feeling lonely. But I think some of it might also be, maybe some people look at it and say, well, I'm bored or something. But I think
They're bored or something? Is that what
well,
you're
it could
saying?
be boredom. I mean, they
Right.
might think that it's boredom is loneliness. But I think that a lot of times it's that you don't want to be with yourself.
Right.
You're looking at it and I'm going, this is the beginning of the talk, so I'm sorry. But I did want to say that when you said, I just want to reinforce what you said about, not staying in a bad relationship, because I've had too many people I care about in my life who stayed in, sometimes you shouldn't be there. It's not always that you look, oh, what can I learn from this? But I've seen too many times when people got really bad about that stuff. So.
Yes.
And I think, the first place you should look for answers is, right where you are.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting because in a way, I've never quite put these two together, but you stay in the bad relationship because you're lonely and because you're afraid of being lonely, too. And it's kind of about being really brave about being lonely and knowing what's what. Should I be in this relationship? Why am I in this relationship?
Right, and a lot of times people would focus, I know people would focus on their partner as, and that's might be the problem. And maybe that their partner is a bad person too, that
That's
sometimes
absolutely
they're doing
Yeah.
bad things. And, but it's easier to focus on that instead of focusing, on yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that happens too.
Definitely.
So it's easy to blame and to, well, that's because of this.
Yep. I have a
It seems like we're always looking for some place to place our attention other than inside.
Mm-hmm. Right, yeah. Just kind of like this is a more serious version of the turning on the radio.
Yeah.
That,
Yes, it is.
the turning on the radio doesn't really matter.
Right, it's a distraction. It's just
Yeah.
trying to keep us from really being alone, from being alone ourselves.
Yeah.
Try to pretend that we're not there.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right. And that's terribly sad. And when we become really like acquainted with that sadness, you know that everybody else is doing that too, and then you've got love. Because you feel the compassion. Oh yeah, that is, ugh. Everybody else is doing it. Poor babies. God, you're an asshole. Good. Thank you so much. I think we have snacks.
We do.
We do.
We do.
Chocolate.
Chocolate? Chocolate?